Hello and welcome back to What Makes You Tick Best Bits. I've got Jess Schultz on this week answering a question, which is what on earth are go-to-market multivitamins? And she explains it in such a beautiful way. This is one of my favorite episodes. We did it about 4 months ago, and she explained her strategies to help early stage tech startups, particularly seed to Series A, but it's just as applicable across the stack. How to leverage marketing and sales tactics that drive massive results with minimal effort and minimal spend. So if you want to record one piece of content that you could turn into 30 assets, turn one podcast into 30 opportunities to speak to customers and take control of that content to use it for outbound, as well as to use it for your own positioning, value proposition, and the language that resonates with your customers. This is a must-see Best Bits episode. If you like the full episode and you'd like to listen to it, I'll put it in the show notes. Otherwise, enjoy the pod.
Another thing I tell founders is I hate that term growth hacks because it sounds like there's some way to push the easy button and that just doesn't exist. But I like the term instead, or I've been trying to use it more, of go-to-market multivitamins. And so a lot of these things that I try to recommend, like podcasts, have multiple benefits. So to your point, okay, we get on the podcast, you ask me a bunch of questions that make me think critically. We record it. I have, to your point, a whole transcript of my real words answering your questions. Hopefully I did a decent job. And then I have that transcript to work with where I can create social media posts from things that I said. I can create a blog. I can clip it into 30 and 90-second video clips that I can use on social media. I get a backlink from it. You in the show notes, you say Jessica Schultz, Amplify Group, put a link to my website. That helps my SEO, right? So I think sometimes also what I think founders don't know that I try to help them know is I'm there's a lot of things we can do that that 1 hour, we get 30 outputs. So that's awesome. So find those things where we can do the one to many, 2 birds with 1 stone, whatever, 10 birds in this case.
Yeah, 100%. There's so many use cases, right? Because I think that the other thing is with podcasts, you can use it for outbound. So obviously you can post some clips, but there's nothing if you let's say you had a small sales team or a marketing team, and you, the founder, go on a podcast, you talk about the origin story of your startup, the problem you're solving in the world, some real life examples of what it does. You get some of these short 30 to 60-second clips and you give them to your team, and your team can reach out to people and say, our founder was just on a podcast where they talked about that exact problem and then offer trying to get an indicator of interest. You're not saying, here is the clip. You say, would you like me to send you a link? It's so low friction. It's such an easy CTA. Everyone will say yes to that, whether they watch it or not. It's well, they're obviously engaged with this topic. And maybe you could get the founders to go and have a conversation with them, or you could say here's the full link to the full podcast, or what did you enjoy about it? It creates a conversation. No one's sending out podcast clips in Outbound, and it's such an obvious play. Even if you're the founder, I use it all the time, not just me talking, a huge value that I get from the podcast. So I think that another play that a founder could do, it takes more time, but would be to start a podcast, because you can utilize the guests' clips, right? I've sent out your podcast to a bunch of people, Jess, and I've sent out lots of people, because they're all facing the same challenges. They're oh, we're really struggling with this thing. And I'm oh, well, we just did a podcast about that. Would you like me to send you a copy? And I get CEOs writing their podcast notes back to me as part of a sales process. I'm you spent an hour watching this other person facing the challenges that you're facing. It just puts you in a completely different level. So I just think there's so many wonderful ways that you can use face and voice.
Yes.
To separate from the text world that ChatGPT is now at a very, very high level able to do, and a lot of people wouldn't be able to see. That doesn't take a huge amount of time to go and rent studio space and spend hours preparing scripts and thinking of it like a sort of big TV type campaign. It can be these tiny, tiny little moments, 10-second clip. And then suddenly you could utilize that in your outbound.
Yep. Like, I love that. And I actually haven't used it in Outbound, but now I will. So thank you for that. I'll add that to my benefits list. But and the other thing I would add to what we're saying too is it even helps nurture your existing audience as well, right? Like, and I've heard this time after time again with my own podcast appearances, like people that like maybe a founder that I pitched a year ago and he went dark. We'll all of a sudden see a flurry of posts about me being on a podcast on LinkedIn, and we'll reach out and say, "Hey, I saw you on the show. I listened to it this weekend. It actually made me think we need to reconnect." Like, right? It's just another way of reminding people you exist, like being, as that one woman said, like, what'd she say? Obnoxiously visible or whatever, right? It's another way of being obnoxiously visible that also adds credibility, because some people might not know, like you and I do, that it's not that hard to get booked on a podcast. Like it's not, it's like, I mean, depends on the one, right? Like maybe getting booked on Adam Grant's podcast or something. You need to be Oprah. But like there are a lot of up and coming podcasts where you can get booked and it's not this huge feat. So I think to the people that don't know that it's kind of easy, it really makes you look like a superstar. Like it creates like this superstar fame effect as well, right? Like perception.
Yeah, exactly.
I'm like, and that also helps, you
Yeah,
know,
exactly.
because they're like, wow, they really must be doing something right. Look at them on all these shows. Like,
yeah, 100%. And you see the people, right? It's like I love getting the feedback from people. It's like I can't log on to social media without seeing your face. I'm like, with this tiny little business that's like very, very loud, but there's this, like you talked about these little sound bites that you can just like grab hold of and use for the rest of time. A good friend of mine told me this line, which I remember forever: Mindshare precedes market share.
mm,
And you
I
tell
like
that to
that.
anyone and they go, oh yeah. And it's totally true. If you're not front of mind, I literally had an inbound this week, someone that came onto our podcast, wonderful, wonderful person. I won't give too much away, but was like, hey Richard, we're looking for this, like a really important founding role in our team. And I was like, well, what made you think of me out of curiosity? It's like, I can't log on to LinkedIn without seeing you.
Yeah.
And I literally said, mindshare precedes market share. And it is so true. It costs nothing, and often it is your existing network. I love that in like a job seeking, and it's slightly off topic, but a job seeking frame, when people are like going, I'm in the market for a role, I'm going, don't just update your CV, like your resume is the first thing you do. That's a middle or bottom of the funnel asset. Let's reactivate your network. It's much more likely you're going to find something from your network than it is something cold or having to rely on someone like me. And I think the podcast is a wonderful use for that too. And like you say, there's so
100%.
many people that would have you on to tell your story. I love it. Let's talk about one different thing that you mentioned that I think is really interesting. So you talked about a lot about the value of email and having an email list, and then also about social, like posting on LinkedIn and social media. Like, how do you see how you use email versus LinkedIn posts, and how that differs for you in terms of what you use it for?
I use both. And even not just for my own marketing, for clients too. I'm like, tell a story. We have two mediums. We have more than two, but like those are two mediums we have available to us. We should put it in both places, because again, maybe on that day that I share something on LinkedIn, 10 of the people I wanted to see it, and 10 of them are on vacation with their kids. But if I hit their inbox too, maybe when they're cleaning out their inbox next week, they're going to see it. So I'm like, I'd rather increase my odds of the message being seen by putting it out in multiple places, is like how I think about it. But then I try not to make them like copy paste, because I think that's boring. And I forget there's a term for it too. I forget what it is, but it's like if you push out the exact same thing at the exact same time everywhere, that's boring. But what I like is, for me, my newsletter is more of a long form content place. There's usually 5 or 6 social media posts that are gems inside of that one newsletter, right? So like I write the newsletter, but then I can repurpose or recycle, right? Nuggets from that for multiple posts
Yeah, I love it.
in the coming week. And sometimes social feeds my newsletter. Like maybe something I post on social has like really strong feedback. And I'm like, oh, I'm going to take that and I'm going to expand upon that thought because that seems to really catch people's attention. So then that goes in the newsletter as like and I expand upon it in a future post. And then the other thing I guess I would say, like I try to remind people is like a variation, which you were alluding to a minute ago too, of like different mediums, because we're all also different learners and absorbers of information. Like you said, maybe some people are more auditory and visual, and so they enjoy like watching or listening to a podcast more than reading a newsletter. So, I mean, I just run out of time in the week, but I would love it if I could also record a video every week that I send my newsletter of me talking about the key points in it. And then that could be distributed on social media, or even maybe I've seen some people starting to put a short video, 2-minute video in their newsletter where it's like, maybe you open the email, you don't feel like reading the email, but you watch the 2-minute video, right? But like coming with different formats of media too, I think helps you maximize your reach because different people are going to consume differently.
And they're just busy in their own life, right? The fact is, most people will ignore most of your marketing most of the time, and that's fine. And this is why you've got to like play the percentages and also like find where someone might go. Because the reality is, like a lot of these people you're trying to sell to, or that would be your customers, are just rammed. Like their calendar is literally from like 8 a.m. through till 6 o'clock, calls, meetings, traveling. So like when they disconnect and they maybe go onto like TikTok or Instagram or Facebook, that's when they would see it. Or maybe like you say, they're not like in LinkedIn during the day going and looking at that stuff. Maybe they've been turned off because of all of the AI going on there. And then they open up their email and that's the time when they get to read it. And if there's like multiple, there's like video, GIFs, all sorts of stuff in there, that's really valuable. I love that. Let's talk about multivitamins because I love this topic. So when you talk about go-to-market multivitamins, I'd probably say I'm saying multivitamins and you say multivitamins, but
I know, it's okay.
So what does that mean to you?
To me, that means like, how can we strategically spend our time and resources? And our time is our biggest resource usually as a founder, right? But our time and our money, how can we spend that where we get, again, multiple benefits for that one investment? And so like for me, like I said, podcast is one of those because it's like we do this one thing for 1 hour and I get all of these cascading benefits off the back end of it. Fantastic. Or like customer reviews, like I mentioned, like there's so many benefits to getting those. Like it helps you with top of funnel because G2 and Gartner and those outlets, they spend a lot of money to market through paid ads, through SEO, etc., to market their product as the place to go for software shopping and software reviews. So when you're on there and you have reviews, you benefit like indirectly from the big dollars that they pump into it, right? Even if you have the free account. And I've showed people too, like on those platforms, you can more easily rise to the top of the search rankings in there oftentimes than you can on Google, because there's so many factors on Google and it's always changing too. But like, for example, for a while, and I probably talked about it too much and now my competitors got wise, but for a while I was ranked number 2 sales consulting firm on G2 because I just had more reviews than everyone else. And so like if someone was shopping for sales consulting, I was the second search result. And that still drives a lot of inbound for me. Again, now my competitors went and, trumped me and I think I'm like, but I'm still on the first page. I'm not on the first page of Google for sales consulting, So like it's finding those little ways of like, how can we invest, again, a little bit of time and resources in this area, and I'm always looking for like 4 or 5, if not more, benefits that we're going to get as a result of that investment of time, money, energy.
I love it. So let's say that there are founders and startup leaders watching this and they're thinking about, right, cool, I want some multivitamins in my life. And what's like a sort of a favorite use case you have of where you can do one thing and then turn it into 3 to 5 other ways of using the same effort to drive value in different places?
Those are two of them that I just gave you, like two of my favorites. I would say my third favorite, but I have a whole article on this that you can feel free to put in your show notes too. My third favorite is doing outbound on LinkedIn, coupled with thought leadership on LinkedIn. I'm always running an automation, to be honest, building my network on LinkedIn. And I don't even it's like what I call soft outbound. It's not even like I'm asking for anything. I literally send I pull a list of who are founders who raise seed and Series A stage funding that fit my ICP. And I put them in a sequence to basically have me reach out and say, hey, I'm Jess. I'm a fractional CRO, CTO. Not CTO, CRO, CMO. I work with, startups. Just thought I'd connect in the event that I can be helpful now or in the future. A couple days later, they get a little note, hey, I also run a newsletter. It's free, full of tips, tricks, and multivitamins. Thought you might get value out of it. Here's the link. I don't ask them for a thing. I just say hey, I'm here. Hey, here's a resource. Hopefully capture their email. And then they go, and so I'm constantly growing my audience of my ICP, asking for nothing, no hard sales pitch. And then I'm constantly posting on LinkedIn. So they're consuming my content. And so the goal is over time, they're going to read the newsletter or the LinkedIn and they're going to say, damn, Jess really knows what she's doing, and reach out. So it's that's one of my other favorites where, you can build your audience in soft ways like that. And then me posting every day takes maybe 15, 30 minutes, right? But I'm reaching thousands of people. Me sending my newsletter takes me an hour every week, reaching thousands of people. And so it's how do you find those ways of just constantly expanding your reach, but not expanding the time that you are spending or the money that you are spending to expand your reach, I guess.
No, I think it's brilliant. I would imagine that there's loads of people just going, oh, well, maybe there's a bunch of stuff we've already done that we could repurpose. Like when you're working with founders, how often is it the case that you go, let's go and look at what you've actually done already that we could immediately go and get some low hanging fruit and leverage? And what's that typical stuff that they have done that you're going, oh, brilliant, this is gold. This is a gold mine. I'm so excited about it.
I would say most of my clients don't have much when I come in. Best case scenario, but sometimes this isn't even the case. They've been at least logging their emails in their CRM and maybe using some kind of conversation intelligence tool to record their calls. That is definitely helpful because then I can go see especially with AI too, right? I can go see how are you talking about the product? How are people responding? I can hear them in action, and I can look for those aha moments, even if they might have missed them. I'm when you said this, they all were so that's kind of the best case I can usually hope for is that they have, again, at least email and call history that I can study. But occasionally they might have a customer interview I can watch, but really most of the time I'm coming in and they've gotten where they've gotten based on the founders network and maybe some of the investors network, and just brute force they've closed deals. And so I'm that's awesome. But usually by the time they call me, they've hit a ceiling of that, right? We've exhausted our network, we've exhausted our investors networks. Now what? And I'm oh, I wish you could have just started a few, but it's fine. You start when we start. But I still tell them to be positive because I always try to be positive. I'm you got to this point, wherever that is, 1 million, 2 million ARR, with no marketing, with no case studies, no reviews, no podcasts, nothing. That's freaking incredible. There's only up to go, right? We can inject some really basic marketing here and there's only up.
Yeah. I love that. I would imagine that if they are recording calls, they just get so busy that they just don't really have the time to go back and actually just hear what customers said.
Study. Yeah.
Yeah. And it's I always make a joke with Tolly that I, on my runs, listen to our podcast. Like, you know, it's like my favorite thing to do. But it's not because I'm like this sort of massive narcissist, maybe like 6%. But like the major value is that when I'm in the conversation, I enjoy the conversation, but I'm obviously like very actively listening and I'm focusing on lots of different things. Whereas when I'm just like on a run, I can just really listen and I pick up loads of things. I often listen to a podcast 2 or 3 times. And if you could do the same with like customer calls, where you're like really listening back going, I didn't notice that like silence that they put there, or when I interjected with that thing, or that thing that they said, but maybe they didn't say. And like, you know, as a sales rep, when you're listening back to your calls, it's incredibly painful when you start to listen to the calls. All you focus on is the negative. But the amount of things that you can learn about how your own in pitch can improve and your own questioning skills can pick up. But really what they did say and what they didn't say is phenomenal, because unless we take the time to stop and analyze, we're just moving so fast forward that we're not really learning from all the effort that we've gone and done. In terms of like multivitamins, there's nothing really more powerful in terms of medicine than the medicine of hearing your own mistakes and the things that you did well.
And honestly, your next best marketing tagline could be buried in there. Meaning, when I interviewed one of my clients' customers, he made a comment, and he's not a marketer. He's like the head of a trading desk, right? But he's like, yeah, they let me move at client speed, not bank speed. And I was like, boom, that is the lot, you know? And I was like, he just gave us our marketing slogan, like move at client speed, not bank speed. And like, so it's like you can pull, and like how powerful is that too? Because it's like we're selling to more people that look like him, right? So it's like and not that everyone has to know that those were his words necessarily, but it's like, that's your next slogan. Or like I saw actually one of my clients told me to, the thing, actually he gave me, I think it's actually still my hero message on my website, but this was his quote to me. He's like, you know, I was doing a reference call for you and they asked me what I like most. And he's like, what I told them is that I really appreciate that with you, I can be the client and not the manager. And I was like, damn, that was a really good line too, you know, because he's like, I don't have to manage you. You manage yourself. Like, if I hired someone, I'd have the responsibility of managing them, and I just get to be the client. And I'm like, damn, that was really good. So those are just those things you can find, right? To your point from re-listening, like sometimes your clients are the geniuses.
Yeah, often, right? Because it is that plain language. It's like I often talk to people is like, if I'm scoping out a project, and obviously I need to be able to deliver a value proposition on behalf of a client to the market. And you know, if I ask them what they want me to say, they'll just like show me the website, and I'll just get this very generic pitch around what it does. But if I'm like, well, what do your customers say that the reason they chose you is? And if I was speaking to one of your sales team at the pub and I was asking them to tell me what you do, how would they describe it to me then? They like take it like a very casual, non-structured, normal, formal way of describing things. And often it brings you down to a level of simplicity of language and relatability of language that it cuts through. Like you say, we're going to unlock and transform and revolutionize and all this absolute nonsense that sounds like good at the time. And then you go, literally we sound the same as every other person. Thank you for listening and watching this Best Bits short. If you like this, tune in next Sunday for our next special part of our favorite episodes. And if you love the main podcast, every Thursday we introduce you to a new virtual mentor so you can hear their career story and answers to the biggest questions in tech. See you on the next episode.